Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So what I'll do today, I will talk about the importance of the data quality, and what happens when the quality of data is not great, and the things which you can do to mitigate that process, right? Because it doesn't matter if you're using artificial intelligence based tools or if you wanted to do a non AI based stuff. The data is important, and the quality of data is extremely important, right? Let me give you a very simple scenario. Let's say you run a brewing company. So my favorite, uh, so brewing firm. Now, let's say you wanted to make forecasting on the number of the stouts beer that this company can sell, let's say for in 2024. Now, to do that forecasting, you need to have the previous year data in the form of uh, yeah, the customer info, right? So you need to first of all you need to have information of the customer, which who bought the product and the kind of beers the customer buys, whether excuse me, whether the customer is really buying the stout. Let's say, so I would say the number of stouts beer, right? So this information is important, and this is linked to this, right? So let's say, for the sake of argument, these are the two information I need, right? Now, imagine that if your data is not great, if you don't have unique customer information. Let's say you have duplicate information everywhere in your system. And let's say you don't even have accurate information of the number of beers an individual customer buys. Let's say I'm buying, uh, say thousand bottles of stout beer from this brewing firm, right? And if for whatever reason, right, if the data in the system is not accurate, instead of thousand, just for the sake of example, right, uh, I'm just giving this not so great example, but let's say instead of thousands, right, the information in the system shows like I've been buying, let's say, 400 bottles of beers for the past 4 years, so 400 each, an average, and instead of thousand. So think about the forecasting model, right? So the forecasting model will say, hey, this is not really a great customer. So I'm not a great customer. So because I'm buying 400 compared to other customer who's buying 1,000, right? Or let's say some of the information is missing, right? Uh, that's one scenario, right? I'm just giving you a very very basic scenario, but it could be different. Another scenario I can think about, like, say, let's say you're a marketing team, you have sales team, and let's say you have finance team, right? They all record customer information, but the amount of information that is required in each department is different. For instance, for a marketing team, it's very important to have the email address of the customer so that they can send out the newsletter and other stuff. But as for the sales team, the phone number is more important, just for the sake of argument. So you can see the data issue, right? So what did the marketing team did? They created a customer record type, and they made certain fields required using a page layout, right? And whereas that is not required for the sales team or for the finance team. So this leads to a data in the system about certain customer where we have email address, certain customers we don't have phone number, certain customers we have whatnot, right? So now imagine you wanted to feed this data into the AI system, right? So it makes it very difficult. And now when I said difficult, it's not really difficult in the terms of complication behind this thing, but to make your model perform to the level of efficiency, right? So that you can get the desired output. If forecasting is something you're after, if your model is not well trained using the right amount of data, using the right quality of data, then your model might not be efficient in um, displaying or forecasting the right information, right? And which can result in the loss of revenue, maybe the retention issue with the customer, and a lot of other things, right? So the data quality is very important. So that's why in machine learning space, it's very important we talk about the data cleaning. So data cleaning is something which is taken very seriously, because people normally, when they think about machine learning model or AI, or for instance deep learning model, they just assume that, okay, I can grab this data set, try running this data set using my model, and then I will have a training set and I'll run it. Then I will expose my model to, let's say, a real data set, and then my model will behave. It's not really the case though. The lot of work, if you ask any machine learning engineer, the lot of effort that goes into the data optimization and data cleaning, because you have to feed your model the correct data. You cannot feed your model a data which is inconsistent, which has a lot of loopholes, which is not properly labeled, unless you're, I'm talking from a supervised learning perspective, right? Just to keep it simple. And if you are training your model, um, with the inconsistent data, with fuzzy data, with data which is missing, it's your model will not perform very well, right? And also the data in a different format. Like for instance, if you have a data where the city, say for instance, Japan is represented in the form of Japan, and another place represented in the form of JP, China, in for instance, represented in the form of China in some place, and some place CH. So you can see that data inconsistency, right? So those things it can cause a data quality issue, because how do you make a report out of it, right? If you are not really sure what the CH means, right? You need to work out um, the right mapping, right? So it is a time consuming. So that's why it's often good to have the right set of data that goes in, right? So this is the data quality challenge what I'm talking about. And most of the Salesforce org, like some of the orgs I personally worked, I don't really want to give up any information from the companies I work, but I'm just saying I've seen a lot of duplication, data duplications that happens, and data duplications uh, has cost company a lot of issues in terms of reporting, and that is not really great, because they can't really do forecasting based on existing data, because there are a lot of legacy data that sits under, which has been captured in the wrong way, maybe because some of the fields were supposed to be made mandatory, but it's not made mandatory. So a lot of data was missing. So it has caused the business a lot of issues, overhead, in terms of fixing it. Now, how do you ensure, excuse me, you are caring for the right quality data? There are a lot of things you can do, right? So, as the data quality, let's say you analyzed, right? You understood, right? We have a data quality issue, right? Now, how do you ensure that you prevent these things going forward, right? The first thing you can do to have a data governance, yeah, to have a data governance in place, which ensure, right, data governance to which fields are required, how the data needs to be captured, and what happens if something changes from a data perspective. Whether you can delete the data, whether you can archive the data, a lot of things can be catered using a data governance perspective, right? If you have a data governance in place, then you can make sure that you know um, that the whatever the data you're capturing is the right data. So for let me give you an example, right? Page layout, right? Although if you don't want to say make certain field mandatory, so you can often make that field mandatory on a page layout, so that you ensure that the customer is, so that who are entering the information have to make sure that they capture that detail, right? Even though if you're not making, and ensure that you have a proper validation rule in place, right? Validation rule will ensure you're not actually entering the invalid data, okay? And one thing, just to ensure that wherever possible, if you're giving a pick list, make sure those pick list values are not editable, so that people cannot fiddle with it. So that's one thing you have to make sure, right? So that customer can pick and choose from the given set of pick list. Yeah. And also, one thing people often try to ignore, when you change a field type from a multi-pick list to a single pick list, there is a huge, you will end up in losing a data, right? So you have to factor that in consideration. So if you have a governance in place to manage all of these things, right, you can assure that the kind of data you'll be capturing will be good quality data, and also the kind of formatting of the timestamp, for instance, the country code, what I said, right? Are you really going to capture the country code? Or are you going to capture the real country name? So these are the things that needs to factor so that once you have a consistent data set in place, this will ensure that you can forecast on the right data. And also, it's very important that um, even from a training an AI model, right? Even from training a machine learning model, even if you are considering, let's say, classification problem or a linear regression problem from a machine learning perspective, I hope you understand what classification and linear regression. I covered that when I spoke about supervised learning at the very beginning. So if you're not sure, please go and watch it. I didn't explain in very detail, but just gave you an overview what it means from a from your understanding perspective, right? Because you might hear these terms here and there, like supervised learning, unsupervised learning, linear regression, problem or classification problem. So yeah, okay. So data governance is very important, like I said. Um, so from an AI model perspective, right? It's like I said, if you wanted to ensure that you are training a model in the right way, you need to have a data governance in place, which ensure that you capture the data in a consistent way and the right amount of data and the right data, right, in the right format. Because even though if you're capturing the data, right, all the required data, but it's coming in a different format from a different source, that's still, it's not going to help us, right? Because then you need to have a data cleaning tool to ensure that all the data what you're presenting to an AI model is in the right format, right? If it's in the right format, you can train it, you can get the desired output. Yeah. So that's pretty much I wanted to cover from a data quality perspective. So I mean, from an exam perspective, I don't really think you will be expected a lot of things from a data quality, just from an understanding, right? Even if you're going to work in the Salesforce space, or for that matter, any other technology, right? AWS or SAP or building your own custom model, you just have to ensure that the kind of data what you get, the kind of data you're going to train needs to be of a consistent state and needs to be of a quality, of a high quality. Quality means it should not have gaps in between. It should not have data of a different format so that your model will get confused, right? So yeah, so just factor this into your the data strategy, and this will ensure that you will be able to train your model in an efficient way. So that being said, that's all I wanted to cover in today's topic. I hope you guys have an amazing Sunday. Adios.